Okay, in this video, we're going to go over an introduction to geometry, and we're going to cover a couple of concepts. First of all, we're going to define what geometry means, and then we're going to talk about three very important, what they call foundational concepts in geometry: points, lines, and planes. Because when we describe these three concepts, you can define literally define every single geometric shape that we will study in geometry. Okay, so first let's go to the word geometry itself, and tell me what two words do you see in there? Two root words do you see? If you said geo, you'd be correct. Geo is is a Greek word for earth. Okay. Metry is a common suffix, and you'll see that for measurement. So literally, geometry means earth measurement. Now, we're not studying the measurement of the earth in geometry, but we are studying shapes, like, for example, spheres, like the earth is, or circles, or cubes, or pyramids, or cylinders, or cones. So geometry really is the study of shapes that are constructed from like basic concepts like we were talking about here. So let's get right to it: points, lines, and planes. Now let's talk about points first. How do you define a point? Well, a lot of geometry texts maintain that you cannot define a point, but what you can do is describe it. Okay? Literally, definition means making something simpler from previously understood definitions, right? So since these three are the foundational concepts for geometry, they really are somewhat undefined, but we can describe them. And that seems like a fine distinction, but not to worry about it. Points. What are points? Think of points as a location in space. Okay, location in space. Remember in algebra we talked about the XY axis. Remember that? So it extends in all three directions. And then there was another axis, the Y-axis, the Z-axis rather, that comes here. So you have three-dimensional shape. So a point is just a location somewhere in that three-dimensional space. Now, it doesn't have any width. It doesn't have any depth. It doesn't have any weight. It's just an abstract location. Okay, so that's one thing to remember about a point. Now, how do you designate a point? Well, it's really pretty easy. You usually give it a letter designation, and you usually just mark a single point like that. And you can also describe it in terms of translating. You could just say like point A. That's another common thing that you would see, or point B, or point C, etc., etc. Okay, but usually you'll see this little filled-in dot. All right, so that's a point, a location in space. Let's build on that, and let's go to lines. What is a line? So lines use points as part of their definition. Think of a line as a series of consecutive points. A series of consecutive points. Now, a couple characteristics of this series. First of all, it's an infinite series. All right? It extends, a line extends in infinity, towards infinity in both directions. Okay, so it's an infinite number of points. And notice I said consecutive, and what I mean by consecutive is that it doesn't like bend, or it doesn't like take an angle. All right. So an infinite number of points. How do we designate that? Just like how do we designate a point, right? So take 2 points. Let's just take any 2 points. Let's take A and C. Okay. You connect them. Now that in itself is not a line. That's called a line segment. In order to indicate the infinity part, or the infinite number of points, you have to extend beyond that with 2 arrows. Okay, so this is a description of a line. Okay, now what would you call this line? I'm going to put one more thing in here to illustrate my point. Let me just put another point. And remember, since this is an infinite number of points, I really can say like that's point D, and it doesn't have to be consecutive lettering, right? This could be point Z, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just starting to name some of the points on this line. You just take any 2 of these points. Let's go with AB. And what you do is you put them right next to one another, and then you put this little symbol right on the top. So this means this is line point AB. Now, because math is a language and geometry is math, can you come up with any synonyms or any descriptions for this exact same line? Okay? You can. And basically, you just have to choose any 2 points. So line AB is exactly the same as line ZD. That's exactly the same as line AC. That's exactly the same as line BC, etc., etc. So any 2 points on this line with this symbol above it basically is describing the exact same line. Okay? Just in terms of convention, usually people pick the 2 points on either end, but that's not even a strict rule. All right? It just makes it a little bit easier for everyone to do the same designation. Now finally, by the way, the other way to designate a line is to just use this little L. So you'd say like line, or you could actually just say line AB or ZD or AC, etc., etc. Okay. Let's get 2 planes. Last definition. So what is a plane? Well, a plane, you need, to describe this, you need at least 3 points to describe it, right? So need at least 3 points to describe a plane. Just like you need 2 points to describe a line. You absolutely need 2 points. You need 3 points for a plane. Now, when you are drawing a plane, let's do this. We'll go A and B. Now, with just 2 points, I can actually draw a straight line, can't I? But the 3rd point, I want to be off that line. So let's put it down there. These 3 points all lie on the same plane. They lie flat on the same plane. Think of this as like a sheet of paper, and all 3 points are on that plane. Okay, not like one's not above it and one's not below it. But these 3 points are a line of it. Now, this is a little deceptive because this boundary really just extends forever, as does this one, as does that one, as does that one. Now, you don't have to put those little arrows in there because once you draw that, you're understood that this is a plane. Okay? So the way people actually write this, just like we did up here, is they'll call this plane a particular plane. So we'll call it capital P, right? And we'll just say plane P, and then you could describe what's in plane P. Contains, for example, points A, B, and C. All right, that might be one way of actually describing this. So, real briefly again, we don't have definitions for these technically because but we are describing them, and this is how you do it. So, a point is a location in space, no depth, no width, no weight, none of that sort of stuff. A line are an infinite series of consecutive points. Okay, and this also doesn't have any weight, any depth, or any of that sort of stuff as well, right? It's just a singular line. And this is how you designate it in one of 2 ways. And planes are the exact same thing too. It doesn't have any thickness, right? But it does have infinite lengths. And you need at least 3 points to describe a plane. And you can just go ahead and label the whole plane, just put it up here in the corner, and then just say plane P, and then describe it any way you need to, all right? All right, I hope that was helpful.